Okay, good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Rob Piper with and this is the regular Zoom side chat. I am really excited tonight because we got somebody that is going to be key to ensuring that things change in Florida. He is the current field director for the entire Democratic Party of Florida, and I'm pleased to have him, Mr. Chris Burns. Full disclosure, Chris used to be my boss when I myself was a fledgling field organizer down in Miami-Dade County. So I just figured I have to put that out there.
Appreciate you. Appreciate all you're doing. Good to see you again. And again, I love the beard.
Thanks. So yeah, we'll get right into it, Chris. Yeah, would you mind just telling us a bit about yourself, your experience, what you bring to this fight, and your background?
Yeah, sure. So again, my name is Chris Burns. I'm the statewide field director for the Florida Democratic Party. I started my organizing story back in Wisconsin in 2016. Looked over on the couch and saw my wife crying at the results of the election. We knew we were going to do something. I thought I was going to start a blog, but we ended up getting recruited to be a neighborhood action team for the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. So we started a neighborhood team in Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin, which is in the reddest county in the state, and we went from a few members to well over 100 to nearly 200, and had people knocking doors, making phone calls in an area where initially people were scared to kind of open the doors and talk to us. Democrats hadn't been talked to in quite a long time. And so what that really gave me was a sense of purpose for me, but also I saw that I, through my organizing, was giving folks a sense of purpose. And so I went on to join the Democratic Party of Wisconsin staff before working on a couple other campaigns in Wisconsin. Moved to Florida at the beginning of 2021. Worked for the Florida Democratic Party first as an organizer and then a regional organizing director, doing voter registration and then just regular organizing and field work. From there, I went to work for the Broward Democratic Party, the DEC, working as a paid organizing director for them, and then transitioned to work for an organization called Bring It Home Florida, where we did voter registration primarily on college campuses. And from there, I went to work for a couple different campaigns and nonprofits. And then, as you know, I joined Mayor Daniela Levine Cava's staff as deputy field and organizing director for her reelection campaign in 2024. And then we went on to work some countywide constitutional officer elections before I rejoined the Florida Democratic Party now as the statewide organizing director.
Fantastic. I mean, it sounds like this began as a labor of love. I guess your time in Wisconsin, I know just from I think when the change happened in Wisconsin, I mean, everyone's aware of just how how much Wisconsin has changed. And I was just wondering, like, do you notice anything different or any significant differences between like Florida and Wisconsin, between Floridians and people in Wisconsin with regarding to how they get inspired with the types of things that they want to see from their government and elected officials?
So here's where I think things are a little bit different. In Wisconsin, comparing then to now, Wisconsin has had hope. So Wisconsin had a long period of building out these neighborhood teams, of working with the state party with basically a perpetual coordinated campaign that was very coordinated up and down the ballot. And so Democrats had initially felt like maybe the party hadn't done as robust of a job as they would have liked it to do. But then, even through that, there was Scott Walker was the governor. He went after public sector unions. There was a big organizing movement in labor that stretched into just the whole Democratic Party, leaning into that. And so Wisconsin obviously has always been an organizing state, has always been a union state. And so there was that passion, that fight there that was maybe underlying things, even as we went through a phase of Republican governors not representing really the ideals of average Wisconsinites, a lot of us felt. And so, in that space where we were, I think in 2011 is kind of where we found ourselves a few years ago here in Florida when Governor DeSantis came in. Floridians are battle tested, are battle ready. They've had to fight through some really tough election cycles. They've had to fight through some really tough decisions by their governments. And in this moment right now, we're ready to rebirth things that like we did in 2016, 2017 in Wisconsin. Our chair, Nikki Fried at the Florida Democratic Party, believes in year-round organizing. And I believe through this moment, through this movement, in this moment that we're in, we're going to change things for the great here in Florida.
So you think that right here in 2025, Florida is where the turning point was in Wisconsin. And I think you said what 2016 to 2017 is when that turning point was in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think this is exactly the moment that we're on the cusp of. The difference is that we have what's happening at the federal level is really amplifying the grassroots efforts. So you see people out there standing on the side of the road, protesting, holding rallies, demanding town halls by their elected officials, demanding their elected officials listen to them and represent them. And so there is that energy out there right now that even we didn't have in 2016, 2017, when we were really kicking off year-round organizing in Wisconsin. That's just an extra a motivator for folks to really get involved now in Florida.
Fantastic. So I guess that would be a perfect segue. I guess you kind of like touched on it a little bit just now. But yeah, please go into more detail, like regarding the general idea of the whole of this, the FDP field plan and its strategy, the strategy for organizing, getting all the disparate counties together, or at least in a coordinated whole to duplicate I guess we could say their successes because they came close. I'd say Gay Valmont in the Panhandle and Josh Wheel over in East Central Florida.
Yeah, I think those special elections really showed Floridians, Florida Democrats, and Democrats around the country what can happen when we do organize, where we come together as a collective. And so the field strategy for the Florida Democratic Party going forward is a year-round organizing model, which means we don't let up from the gas. So we don't have downtime. We are always knocking. We are always calling. We're always texting. We're always meeting. We're always debriefing, and we're always reshifting. And so our volunteers are always kept active, are always kept trained, supported, and motivated to continue the fight. And so, what we'll be doing is organizing in all 67 counties of the state, even in counties where we don't have a DEC presence right now. Those counties will lean into like a regional structure where they'll help support their surrounding counties, and the counties that do have DECs will lean into those areas where we don't have DEC. So everybody's going to work together throughout the state to help push us into the next phase of where we need to be with Florida Democrats. And so the organizing idea is that voter contact is what is going to win elections. And so if we can harness this energy right now, get folks trained and ready, then when 2026 comes, we're going to be ready to fight. And what we're doing is powering the movement for 2026 and beyond, because obviously then we have 2028 coming up, and we have municipal elections in 2025 and 2026, 2027. And so we need to be ready to organize, ready to stand up for great candidates and elected officials that represent the people in Florida at all times.
And the regarding into leaning into counties without a DEC presence, I guess, does that mean that I always thought there always that there was a DEC in every county in Florida, if not a robust one, at least one that was there that just didn't really have a big presence or a lot of grassroots energy. But are there actual counties that do not even have a DEC or like a party presence?
Yeah, there are some. The great thing is that under Chair Nikki Fried, we have teams that are working to establish DECs in those counties. And in the counties where we have DECs that need a little extra support, that's where we're going to lean in extra hard and have a regional support for them.
And as far as regions, I take it that Florida would be part of the plan is to divide Florida up into regions. So would they be like about 6 to 7 regions, different spots like the South, the Panhandle, the Keys?
Yeah, I think our regions are going to be right. Like you can always design regions around, a myriad of things. I think initially our regions are going to be designed around number of people that we have to re-enroll and vote by mail. We know that Democrats vote strongly through vote by mail, and as you know, a lot of Democrats, a lot of Floridians don't realize that after every major election, they're removed from the vote by mail list and they have to re-enroll. And so that's going to be a big part of this first phase of our year-round organizing is getting in touch with all of those Democrats that had vote by mail enrollment in 2024 and letting them know that they need to get re-enrolled now ahead of 2026. And in some cases, re-enrolled ahead of municipal and special elections that are coming up.
And regarding the work that's going to be done in each of those regions, it's can you comment on like the structure of it, whether it be like a regional field director and then underneath that individual, other folks?
Yeah, so I mean I'll just be candid. This is a new approach in for Florida Democrats, and so we're going to be doing a lot of fundraising based on the results that we're able to show in 2025. And so we're going to start out small. It's going to be a small team, but I believe strongly that a strong volunteer infrastructure will win every time over paid staff. I think volunteers have they give something extra when they're representing their communities. That's not to say that folks shouldn't be paid for their work. I believe strongly in paid work. But if we can build a volunteer machine, then we're going to be able to scale our efforts so much farther than we ever would be able to with just a paid staff. So we're going to start out with some regional field directors, some regional field organizers. We're going to bring on eventually some field organizers. We're going to bring on some field fellows as well, and do an internship program and try and really work on leadership development. I believe strongly in coaching folks and anybody that wants to. What I really love to see is I love people that start as a volunteer like I was, and then we're able to bring them into the paid work. But once they're into the paid work, I want to try and bring them into leadership if they have interest. And so that's going to be a big part of our program.
And what stumbling blocks do you foresee possibly that could adversely affect, or at least adversely affect the work, or at least slow it down?
So I think one area where some folks might traditionally think this is a challenging point is actually an opportunity. So I think in the past, some regions, some counties, particular smaller counties, have felt like all of the resources tend to go to the predominantly blue areas, to the bigger counties. And so they felt a little disconnected at times from the field work in the state of Florida with Florida Democrats. The opportunity there is to show them that this is something different. And the conversations that I've been having with small counties, including 4 hours that I spent in Martin County today, talking with the DEC chair there, show me that smaller counties are ready to organize. They're ready to be guided on what they should be doing and how they can do it. And then also, we're open to having this be a really localized program. So we're all going to be working, for example, in this first phase to re-enroll folks and vote by mail. But throughout the state, there are different pockets of people that are enrolled in vote by mail. In some areas, we have a lot of Democrats. In a lot of areas, we have a lot of NPAs. And we've done some really excellent data work to identify folks that are left-leaning NPAs that are going to be excellent opportunities for us to have in a lot of these counties. And so it's going to give us this first phase is going to give us a chance to try a lot of different things that are really customized for all of the different counties around the state of Florida. And I see that as a really big opportunity to show all of these counties that there's a place for them, that this is a 67 county strategy in the Florida Democrats this cycle. Not this cycle. As far as things go going forward, I'm not thinking predominantly in cycles. I'm thinking about the organizing machine always being up and operational.
Outstanding. I mean, yeah, that's definitely the right approach, I would think. And you mentioned something about you mentioned customizing the approach. Is that does that mean that that there's like an awareness that hey, not a single approach made that would work with one county is probably not going to work with another county and vice versa?
Yeah, I think just if you look at Miami-Dade County, what works there is it may not work up in Walton County. You know, if you look at what's happening in Broward, may not necessarily work well in Martin County. And so whether it's just the type of volunteers that are present, if they're volunteers that have tech barriers and they prefer to work off of paper lists, for example, instead of having everybody knocking doors with minivan or making calls with open VPB, and you may have more people on paperless knocking doors, on paperless making calls. You're then going to need to train up and have captains, basically like data captains, people that'll put that data into the system afterwards in a way that you won't need in some of the other counties. So we want to be responsive also to um, different like multilingual opportunities. And so in a place like Miami-Dade, you definitely want to make sure that you have folks able to speak Spanish, folks able to speak Haitian Creole, and all of the other languages that are very diverse in Miami-Dade that might not necessarily be present in all other parts of the state.
And also, uh, the I forgot what I was going to ask, but that's okay. You're aware that there is a registration deficit, at least compared to Republicans and Democrats. There are but there are more in non-party affiliates and independents. Is there this plan, the plan that you have, that factors them as well as right?
So something that's really exciting and that is a little different for Florida Democrats is our field and organizing, or our field team is separate from our voter registration team. And so we have an amazing new voter registration director named Alexis, and she has a plan that I think is really cool. It's actually a partisan voter registration program, which has not been done in quite a while in Florida. And so she'll be rolling that out in the coming months. Right now, she's doing sort of pilot runs in counties to test things and see how things work. But I think we have a really interesting program that folks are going to be really excited about. We're getting back to voter registration in Florida for Florida Democrats.
So the plan is basically to bring those independents and those NPAs to register as Democrats.
So I think there are two different things that we're talking about. So for the voter registration piece, we are going to be trying to register more Democrats. So go into areas where we've identified there are likely pockets of Democrats that are just not registered to vote yet as Democrats or registered to vote at all. And then also we're going to be having conversations with left-leaning NPAs to talk about why they should become a registered Democrat and also to hear reasons for why they may think they shouldn't become registered Democrats so we can be responsive to what the voters are thinking, what's important to voters, so our candidates and our party officials can be aware of that and we can be responsive to that.
So does that mean that there's a persuasion/communication piece to the field plan?
Yes, there will be, especially in certain counties. Again, it's going to differ. It's going to differ a bit between counties based on, without getting overly technical or in the weeds, depending on how many targets we have in these different buckets of data targeting. And so, in an area like Broward, we have a lot of Democrats that need to be re-enrolled in vote by mail, and so we may do less conversations initially with left-leaning NPAs versus other counties where there may be less registered Democrats.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, when you mentioned data, that reminded me what I wanted to ask. Could you just clarify for the audience what minivan is and VPB?
Yeah, so thank you. We used to have an organizer swear jar where every time we use organizer lingo, you had to put $1 in. And so minivan is, well, first of all, the backup van or vote builder is the primary database that the Democratic Party uses to store its data and to input its data. And so minivan is a tool that you use on your phone. It's an app on your phone that lets you knock doors and it plugs into van. Open VPB stands for Open Virtual Phone Bank. A virtual phone bank is just like it sounds. It's a phone bank, only it's not necessarily happening in a room. It could be in a room with other people making calls, but it could be at your home and you're doing it either through your phone or through a computer. Open VPB just means that it's available on the internet.
Good, good, good. Yeah, I know for me, the volunteers that I had working with me, that was Open Virtual Phone Bank, or VPB, was definitely for many of them the preferred tool.
Yeah, it's just so much more. Well, for one, from a leadership point of view, from a data collection point of view, it just makes things so much easier. It makes things so much more efficient because, right, you don't have to put that data in. As somebody who started back in Wisconsin in 2016, 2017, where we actually did have a lot of volunteers there was a tech barrier there. We had to have multiple data captains who were putting that data in. But I also remember that there were some volunteers that would go and knock a packet, and then something would come up, and they would throw that packet, that walk packet, on the back seat of their car and forget about it. And by the time they found it, it was too late to put that data in.
And so what do you think you got to Florida when again?
At the beginning of 2021.
Oh, 2021. So I guess if you're unaware of the answer, because I've only been in Florida since 2012, but I do know that there was a Florida was essentially red at the local level before I got there, even though in 2012 it went for Obama and then it went for Obama in 2008. So there was a Florida was very much pushing red in many ways, before now, before 2022. And I was just curious if you could comment on what about this, what you're doing now, the field plan that you're looking to put in place differs from what Florida has done since 2008 or since 2016 when Florida, at least at the national level, started to go red.
Yeah, so I think you bring up a really great point. The first thing that happened in 2008, in the 2008 campaign with President Obama, was that they ran a very, very intense partisan voter registration program. They set out to register thousands and thousands and thousands of Democrats. And also, they launched their neighborhood teams model, a year-round organizing model where it's basically grassroots effort. It's organizing from the bottom up instead of the top down. And that's what we're doing right now. So I'm excited to get back to that grassroots activism. That's what year-round organizing and that neighborhood teams model is all about. In Florida, it's a little different than in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's a little different than Michigan. Every state's kind of, diverse, has different laws, different makeups, different history. And so in Florida, I'm not sure that we would call it a neighborhood teams model or that we would set up separate neighborhood teams because most of our DECs, many of the DECs have like district leaders or area leaders or precinct captain programs. And so essentially, if you think about it, a precinct captain is a neighborhood team leader. They're responsible for organizing their community, their block, their series of blocks, whatever it is. And so it's the same concept, only a different name, different system.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I guess, do you think that how far behind do you think the FDP might be compared to the Florida Republican Party? Is there a Are there factors that the FDP should be aware of regarding what the Republicans are doing or what they've done up until now to achieve their level of dominance?
So I think that that is something that I'm sure Chair Freed is clued in on and is paying close attention to. I've been focusing my efforts on just doing the work. In my opinion, just for me personally, it's helpful to control the things that I can control and focus on the things that I can focus on and not get too bogged down by what the other side might be doing or what other people might be doing. Just knowing that I'm doing the right thing and that our program is doing the right thing is really important. Like one of the focuses for me in particular has been empowering our clubs and our caucuses, our Democratic clubs and caucuses in Florida. I feel like sometimes, in some instances, the clubs and caucuses haven't been as intertwined with the DECs as is possible. I think our clubs, our caucuses, and our DECs, it's all one big circular ecosystem. And so if you have a bunch of members on a DEC, you're likely to be able to get more members into Democratic clubs, likely to get more members into Democratic caucuses. If DEC leaders are talking to folks in caucuses, they're likely to be able to recruit them into the DEC if they're not members or into a club. And so we can all work together to expand our volunteer pool and to stretch it.
I am so glad you brought up the clubs because based off of what I've seen, club leaders, they make fantastic precinct captains and team leads and the organizers because they've essentially by establishing the club, they have created the infrastructure at the grassroots level that can lead to that next step. When you when you've gone what's in your travels around Florida, are you noticing that there is a that are you noticing that there are people starting clubs, or is this a thing, or is there like a deficiency in that regard?
I think there are a lot of clubs. I think there are a healthy number of caucuses. I think what we can do to improve is providing guidance to everybody, to all Democrats, on the things that are important to push the boulder up the hill, as you will, to make life better for all of us Democrats and really all of us Floridians. And the way we do that is by all of us, to a certain degree, working off the same page, right? We have to start with a list of things that we know are going to help and getting folks enrolled in vote by mail. So let's say that we have clubs and caucuses helping the DEC make calls during our statewide weekends of action, and they're helping to re-enroll folks in vote by mail. After they have that conversation on the phone, after they knock that door, it's a cool opportunity to say, hey, you want to be a member of a club? Why don't you come to our caucus meeting? Have you ever been to a DEC meeting? And so I think every phone call, every door knock is an opportunity for us to do things that will help us electorally and then help us to improve things like systemically for us as Democrats and a Democratic Party.
Fantastic. And if anyone was looking to volunteer or wanted to help out your effort, either as an employee or as a volunteer, where would they go? Who would they need to talk to?
Yeah, so I will share my contact information with you, and you can feel free to share that with folks. Sending me an email is going to be the most efficient way to get a response. But also look for your local DEC, look for your county's DEC. You can also go to floridadems.org, and you'll see all of our actions that are coming up. We are going to be having statewide weekends of action twice a month, every single month, from now until if if I make the decision, eternity, because we need to be constantly having conversations with voters. We need to be building up that muscle memory of how to have great conversations with voters, and we need to train new people to have conversations with voters.
So essentially, just go to floridadems.com.
FloridaDems.org, or send me an email, or look for your local DEC too.
Okay, great. FloridaDems.org. And I'm sure, yeah, the contact information's on there. And yeah, local DECs. Google is a good tool to find your local Democratic Executive Committee. That's what DEC stands for. So whatever county you're in, whether you're in Miami-Dade, Pasco, the Martin, just Google that and you'll be able to find it. And your email is Chris Burns at
It's actually cburns@floridadems.org. So CBYRNES at floridadems.org. Also, you can go to mobilize.us and look for events with the Democratic Party there.
Fantastic. I mean, yeah, this has been very informative. Chris, I appreciate you taking the time. It's always a pleasure to talk with a with with a fellow that was in the trenches with me last year.
Absolutely appreciate all you're doing and look forward to working with you again.
All right, thanks. You have a good evening.
You too.